Hello there, you're listening to Zolimali's Thoughts and Nuts. This is day 2 of my 7-day, 7 episode podcast challenge. For fun's sake, if you're asking me why, it's for fun's sake. And yeah, and as usual, how is life, everyone? Me, I'm doing but you know what? As I mentioned previously, we are resilient to death. We are stubborn to die. Some people, depending on how they are, but then if you're like very well or stubborn, you are indeed so hard to die. Anyways, mentioned previous, I want to talk about stargazing, and I don't think that people would be love to listen about stargazing, so I would tell a ghost story about stargazing and how to get like a clear sky where you can stargaze. Those are the two things that I would like talk about, I guess, because it's easier and kind of intrigues people. So before I go to the ghost story, I would just like talk about why do I even love stargazing. Because one time I was like, I don't know when, me and my family were heading to Terengganu, or we were in Terengganu already, but we were heading somewhere, I have no idea where. And we were still on the road. It was at night, no city lights, in the middle of the road, very dark. Since it was like when you're a kid and you're on a trip, you'll be like, are we there yet? No. And so I leaned my head on the window and I looked up. I witnessed Milky Way. And that is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. When I say Milky Way, because I know it, because it was bright, it was white, it was milky. I cannot explain what milky is in terms of like stargazing, because if you look up at the sky, like if you're in the city, then you can just count stars like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then okay, not stargazing, but you can count stars. If you're in the coastal areas, you'd be like, you can see stars, like lots of them, like you can see dots, twinkling stars. But Milky Way is different. It's like, imagine paint spray paint, white white spray paint is like as if the stars that the ones that you like, if you happen to see or stargaze like stars, like, oh, there's a lot. Milky Way is different because it looks like someone sprayed white spray paint, and I don't know how to explain it, but it's very beautiful. And if you happen to like have the chance to go on a trip to like away from the city, which would be after pandemic, like, and do look up at the sky, night sky, and especially when you're away from city lights, look up and do hope that you would witness Milky Way. Because once you see or witness Milky Way in the night sky, you would not like regret or forget that feeling, because it is beautiful. You can look at internet images, but then you would get the idea of like, okay, this is Milky Way. Oh, this is not Milky Way, but a starry night sky. Cool. You can look up on the internet, but if you look with your own eyes, it's a different experience. So yeah, that is why I still love stargazing, to a point where during high school I was appointed science and astronomy president, club president, yeah. And to expand what what made not what made what are what stargazing made me or learn more is that I learned about zodiacs. That is when and where I learned about reading zodiacs and personalities. But before going into the personalities, I was like, apa? Oh, Libra, Virgo, Cancer, Leo, and every other Gemini, etc. Blah blah blah. I was like, these names are very weird. What is it all about? Oh, and then it relates to your birthday, and that is like one of the branches that you would be interested because I don't know. And whenever I look up the sky, the first thing that I would search for is Orion, since we were taught how to search for Orion. The three stars are the belt, and then you would see which is the club he's holding. And this is one thing that the school or anywhere did not teach. You know, we know what the Big Dipper is because it's in the textbook, high school, primary school textbook. And one thing that they did not teach is that the Big Dipper is actually a part of Ursa Major. And to like simplify what Ursa Major is, it's the Big Bear constellation. And that kind of like, what? You guys didn't like point that out and just point that it's the Big Dipper only and not Ursa Major? Like, why? But then that is where everything starts to like, I'm going to learn everything to a point where I can, not really I can, I know the shapes and lines of constellation without having to search on the internet. I mean, I do at first, but at the same time, I've memorized most of it. Now, if you happen to search for Orion in the night sky, depending on what your zodiac is, because my zodiac is the Cancer. Cancer looks like the letter X, but a bit elongated in the middle, because it looks like a crab. I mean, it does not like connect the dots and it would shape like a crab. It's like a line that an X shape, but how do I say it? That's how constellation works. It's just like if you form lines in between stars, then it would form constellation, and then people would have imaginary ideas. Okay, this looks like a crab. Some people are very simple to make simple things complicated. Since I'm a Cancer, my zodiac is Cancer. After searching for Orion, I would search the Big Dipper or Ursa Major, the Big Bear, because Orion and the Big Bear is very close to each other. I mean, not really very close. If the head is on the right side of the belt, then most of the time, it's not always, because the stars and constellation shifts places. Like sometimes it would be there. Sometimes it's like inverted. Oh, because stars move. If the head is on the right side of the belt, then Ursa Major is most likely 100%, not really 100%, most of the time, probability is that it Ursa Major or the Big Dipper from Orion, if you shift your sight or vision to the right a bit, I mean not a bit, you need to like search the whole sky, and when you find the Big Dipper, that is where Ursa Major lies. And also, since why is there Ursa Major? Is there Ursa Minor? Yes, there is. Ursa means bear, I guess not, because it shapes like a bear, so why do they name Ursa? So I'm just assuming that it is bear. I mean, it should be like that because if it's not, then wow. But continuing, since Ursa Major is there, Ursa Minor would be just a wee bit downwards to a little bit to the right. That is where the two bears are. And that is very interesting. Okay, now those are the three like constellation that I always find or like found whenever I stargaze because it's the easiest. Like, find Orion, shift to the right, Big Dipper, Ursas. And then in between those like constellations, or you need to like depending like because oh I'm going to share how to like search for your zodiac constellations. And it depends on like you kind of need to know a few instead of knowing just one, as the constellation zodiac, it like it rotates, kind of rotates or shift. It doesn't shift in like like Virgo, Leo, Cancer. It does not like shift. Like, it will become Cancer, Leo, Virgo, or Virgo, Cancer, Leo, terbalik, etc. It will still be in line, but it would like if you know the sequence of zodiac, that is how that is like for instance after like searching for three of those constellation, Orion and Big Dipper, Ursa, I would search for Cancer, Scorpio, and Libra because those three are the easiest zodiac constellation that you can remember. So if I cannot find Cancer is kind of hard because there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5 or 6 stars that make Cancer. If I could not see or could not search or could not find Cancer, I would go for Scorpio because Scorpio is like the easiest way you can understand how Scorpius constellation looks like. It looks like a duck feet, a very like one line, like not squiggle, like crooked line, and then forks into 3 line, and that is Scorpio. If I were to search for Libra, it looks like a scale, and rather than a scale, I would search for a cross, like plus sign, and then if there's like bright stars hanging, looks like hanging downwards or upwards depending on how the world shifts. If there are like stars that makes up the scale, that is Libra. And yeah, if you happen to like depending on what zodiac constellation that you want to remember, if you like find two, and if you like connect like one line between those two constellation zodiacs, along the lines, if you extend the whole line, is the whole zodiac. You can find the other zodiacs like Aquarius, Capricorn, Gemini. What else? Aquarius. Did I mention that? I don't know. But then, yeah, in one straight line, the zodiac constellation is definitely it is actually in one line only. So if you remember two, and then you search for it, and then you happen to like, hey, that's that and that's that. In one line, that is indeed the zodiac constellations. Yeah, that is one way that I can explain how I remember how constellation works. And also from Orion, if you're like constellation zodiacs is so many, I want to know what is around something that I know. Okay, Orion, in front of Orion or behind Orion. When I say behind, it's not like behind the stars. In your line of sight, whichever it is facing, or around Orion, there should be a constellation that is named after animals. Because I don't know, for some reason, animal based constellation always surround Orion because Orion is the hunter. And that is how I remember that. I mean, it may be wrong because I haven't been stargazing a lot recently, nor that I'm living in like, places or a place where stargazing is easy every night. Whenever I do search for Orion, or whenever I do have the chance, most of the time around Orion would be the animal based constellation, depending what animal it is. Even Leo, Leo can always be in front of Orion because it's like when you're reading constellations, it's like storytelling. There is Orion, and in front of it is Leo. Behind is Capricorn. For some reason, who knows? That is one of the beauty that not beauty, like one of methods that I developed because I can remember constellations easily, and even if I do not remember, I can pretty much. This is where I share the methods. One of the methods, if you want to know what constellations or like you want to stargaze, there's a thing called star charts, which is impossible, not really impossible for you to get that because it's kind of a hassle, as you might want to search or type in your latitude, longitude, your location, and then you will get your star map. And then when you look up the whole circumference or the whole globe dome that you're looking at, that is your star chart. But the easiest method that I can share is just download an app. There's a lot, but I use one app. It's called Night Sky, and it's very useful, especially whenever I just like, okay, where is Orion? Because I want to just skip Orion and I want to just like look at the other constellations. Speaking of like using the app, you can also know which is satellites, which is planet. However, since I love stargazing, I've developed this like I mean it's not like 100% accurate, but most of the time I can detect where Mars is, and even I can know like, oh, that's a satellite. Long story short, I can differentiate whether if it's a planet or a normal star or if it's a satellite. Satellite, star, planet. Yeah. Most of the time, since Mars is close and Mercury and Venus is also close, you can somehow, if you're lucky to be in a rural area where there's no city lights, then you can find planets. But if it's hard, then use the app Night Sky, because you would get accustomed, I guess, if you constantly stargaze and then you're like, okay, I want to know, then just it's AR based app. So if you just like point up, then it would follow because motion, AR. Now let's just skip all the methods since some people might find stargazing is boring. I would tell a ghost story. Let's spice up the mood by using a little bit of BGM. And yes, here's how the story goes. One time, I was stargazing, and then I was counting stars. Because at that time I was a kid, and stargazing is very fun. And counting stars seems like very, something that you just want to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, counting stars. And as I was counting stars, I heard like something or someone walking towards me, but then I couldn't give a damn because at that point I was like, stargazing is fun, do not disturb me. And when I reached to like, I don't know what number, I forgot, but reaching that number and then a tap to me, that someone tapped on my shoulder. For some reason that person is in front of me, and then when I look in front, are you calling for me? Now that story might not be scary, but it did not happen to me. Because truth be told, when I was like dwelling into like stargazing, and this machi of mine be like, don't count the stars, you will call ghosts. I'm like, okay. And I was terrified as a kid, so I stopped stargazing. However, as I like discovered, you know, as I grow up, and then it's bullshit. And even if I do stargaze, you might not be able to count stars either. Depending on where you are. If you're in the city, then you might just see 1, 2, 3. But if you're like in a place where you can have like clear skies, then hey, just enjoy the skies. Just enjoy the starry sky. I guess that is all about it. That is like one of the things that I can talk about. Stargazing. I mean, I could dwell in more, but then I don't know. It's not fun to talk about stargazing because it's more fun to do stargazing itself. Like, to do it is better to have, like, to experience it is better than to listen its theories and everything. Yeah, that's what I think. So I'll just stop here. I guess that is all from Zoliboli's Thoughts and Nuts, day 2 of the 7-day, 7-episode podcast challenge. It has been... Bye bye.